With less than 12 hours to go until Tottenham kick off the Europa League knockout campaign that will determine Big Ange Postecoglou's future, I'll be discussing all of his quotes from yesterday's pre-match press conference, as well as my own thoughts on the game and our chances of going all the way in the competition, something I think Big Ange will need to do if he's going to keep his job this summer. I'll also be discussing Big Kev Danso's interview and reports that Everton may be interested in bringing Richarlison back to Scousland. All this and more on today's daily Tottenham Hotspur news. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, please do press like. And if you're not already a subscriber, please do subscribe for daily Tottenham Hotspur news. Also, guys, thank you so much to all of you who've been watching and giving comments on my daily stand-up comedy clips that I'm putting on YouTube Shorts. Really appreciate it. If you guys like them, and a fair few of you seem to be, please do go and give me a follow on Instagram and TikTok even. It's at Barnaby Slater Comedy over there. If you could come and follow me over there, it'd be really helpful. But let's get going with Spurs and just a little bit of transfer news. That being that Everton apparently would be open to a deal to re-sign Brazilian striker Richarlison in the summer. Everton obviously have just been taken over, so they will have some money to spend now that it's clear that they're not going to get relegated. David Moyes likes big muscular characters willing to put themselves about. Richarlison still loved at Goodison Park, as shown when he's gone back there, scored for Spurs, refused to celebrate, and even when I believe this season at Tottenham's last game at Goodison Park, he gave a walk around the pitch after. So you could see that move happening. I think it would benefit Spurs if they could get some money back for Richarlison, solely on the basis that he doesn't get on the pitch nearly enough, too injured, just in the same way that Giovanni Lo Celso was too injured for Ange Postecoglou, and Postecoglou insisted on kind of getting rid of him. So I could see that happening. As to how much money Spurs could get back for Richarlison, probably not that much. I mean, we bought him, I think, for upwards of £55 million, but he's barely played any football other than that kind of spell midway through last season where he scored, I think, maybe 8 in 10 or 9 in 11 games. He's just been injured far too frequently. So maybe 35 million pounds. I mean, the good news for Spurs is that the market for number 9s, especially number 9s who can also play off the left side, like Richarlison, is incredibly small. There are just not that many number 9s around anymore. And of course, there'll be the Premier League to Premier League tax and the fact that he, in the last World Cup did play as a starting number 9 for Brazil. So there should be some ability for Daniel Levy to get some money back for him if Everton are willing to put an outlay in. They're going to lose Dominic Calvert-Lewin this summer on a free transfer more than likely, and only have Beto up front, who is scoring some goals recently, but I think, to say the least, he looks pretty raw. So let me know in the comments, guys, what you think. Would you be willing to let Richarlison leave to Everton? And if so, how much money would you want us to get for that deal? Okay, so Ange Postecoglou yesterday did his pre-match press conference before tonight's AZ Alkmaar Europa League last 16 first leg tie. He was asked about the team news. I'm sure a lot of you have heard this, but he said this: in terms of who hasn't travelled, Decky Kulusevski is the only one. He's got a knock on the foot. He's not really sure when he'll be back, to be honest, but it's got a bit sore in the last couple of weeks. He's been able to train and play and get through it okay, but it wasn't getting better, so we did some further investigations. No real clarity, but we're waiting on a couple of things to find out the extent of it. But unlikely he'll be back before the international break. Nothing serious, nothing surgical or anything, but he didn't travel. Ben Davies is close, but he's still doing some work back at the training ground, and Richarlison as well. But other than that, everyone here, of course, other than Radu Dragusin. So that, I think, says a lot, doesn't it, about Decky Kulusevski. He has not been playing well for the last few months. He's looked, what I've been calling, certainly during the watch-alongs, incredibly leggy. I thought it was fatigue, but clearly he's been carrying a knock as well. And this is something that we haven't really taken into account nearly enough in terms of how many injuries Spurs have had. And as a result, probably those who haven't been, properly injured have been playing through knocks as well as fatigue. And that is why Kulusevski's form has dropped off a cliff so much. So to be honest, I think a couple of weeks rest and not going off with Sweden, and don't forget he's captain of Sweden, so he'll be gutted about that, but not going off with Sweden for the international break could probably do Decky and Tottenham Hotspur some real positive. It could be a real positive for Spurs. So let's just hope that when they get their scans done and everything comes back, that there's no kind of fracture or ligament damage or anything like that, and that Kulusevski just needs a proper rest, and that maybe he could come back in the next couple of weeks' time, maybe 3 weeks' time, somewhere early April, some of the reports are saying, and be back to his best, by which point, hopefully, Spurs will be through to the next round of the Europa League, and then we can really benefit having Kulusevski added to the squad. Big Ange Postecoglou was asked, can Romero, Van de Ven and Solanke start tomorrow? He said this, we'll see, we'll train today. Obviously, they've all been out for a significant amount of time, so we'll see when we reintroduce them, but they're all here and training today, so we'll make decisions after that. Guys, let me know in the comments what you think. Would you start them? I have to say, no. I would not start them tonight away at AZ Alkmaar. I would have them on the bench. Don't forget what happened. The last time that Mickey van de Ven and Christian Romero played, they started against Chelsea and they were both taken off injured within the 90 minutes. And that is why I think we need to do what we've been doing a little bit more regularly recently, which is kind of drip feeding these players back slowly. 20 minutes here, half an hour here, 45 minutes there. And don't put the pressure on them, and especially not all three of them at once. Can you imagine? I mean, I hate to say it. This is me being kind of a Spurs fan of over 30 years, but I could actually imagine him starting them all and them all coming off injured within the space of 90 minutes, and we're back to square one. So for me, it's no. Have them on the bench. Show the faith in the players who, other than that Man City game, have been on pretty decent form. 3 wins in a row in the league before that. And say, we have more options on the bench now. And it's a bigger bench because it's Europa League. So lots and lots of options. That's the way I feel about it. But let me know how you think about it in the comments. Ange was also asked, what is your view on Argentina calling up Romero? For those of you who saw my video yesterday with Yori, we talked at length about that. Yori was certainly very disappointed and said, look, Christian Romero can leave because he really felt that his priorities are with Argentina over Spurs. Well, this is what Ange Postecoglou said. He said, it's interesting. I've been in the game for 26 years, including as a national coach. And one rule we know is that we don't have any control over international football. Everyone knows that. I don't know why it becomes a question every time. Even if he's injured, they can call him up. So from our perspective, it's not of our concern. Our concern is to get him up and running and hopefully get him some game time. If he's fit, he should go and get more game time rather than not playing for 2 weeks. The international side of it, people have asked me a couple of times over the last few days, and it's almost like they're not really sure. International football is pretty. Clubs don't have any control on where their players go. So, look, that's the bit of a truth bomb from Ange Postecoglou. It's not up to Spurs whether Christian Romero goes to play for Argentina or not. However, I think the Spurs fan base's point of view, and I kind of agree with it a little bit, is it's worrisome that every time an Argentina international comes round, Romero seemingly magically does become fit just before. And if my memory serves right, and I did a few videos on this, I was incredibly frustrated. I think it was at the last international break, or certainly the one before, where Romero kind of magically became fit the game before, played in that game, went off to Argentina, and then I believe played 12 or 13 minutes for Spurs in the game afterwards before coming off unfit again. So it could be coincidence, but it feels like it's happened far too many times. But if you feel strongly that I'm wrong and I'm being unfair, please do let me know in the comments, because definitely love to debate it. The issue that Romero has is I think he's only played 12 games for Spurs this season, and we need him. We need him badly, and we need him to be fit, and we need him to show the kind of form for Tottenham that he regularly shows for Argentina in those tournaments that he's won, the World Cup, the Copa America. Well, now, this, in terms of his club career, is as important as anything he's ever done. The Europa League, Spurs single-mindedly focusing on one tournament that, if we can win it, would get us through to the Champions League next season, break the drought of all Spurs, a lack of trophies since 2008, win us our first European trophy since 1984, a trophy that we won previously in 1974, so we've got some history with it. And Romero has an opportunity to be one of the leadership group, to be the vice-captain, and if there's an injury or if Son doesn't play in that final, then he could lift that trophy for Tottenham Hotspur. And then, I think it's fair to say, if Real Madrid came in for him in the summer after we won the Europa League, then all Spurs fans would say, you have our blessing, my boy. You go over there and thank you for your service for this club. So that's how I feel about it. I just want him to be a little bit more focused on Spurs, a little bit more focused on every minute of every game he plays for us. Get fit, stay fit, and play his best for Tottenham, because he is a brilliant centre-half. He's a brilliant ball-playing defender. He can split the lines with his passes better than any defender we've had for many years. And I want him to play his best for Tottenham more than anything else. I really do. So let's see what happens. Like I said earlier, hopefully he'll just start on the bench today, maybe get some minutes off the bench, and then maybe some more minutes against Bournemouth, and then perhaps potentially he could start in that second leg against AZ Alkmaar if we need him to. Ange was actually then asked afterwards as a follow-up question, you could have a point on whether Romero should play for Argentina, and Ange just said bullishly, what's the point in that? And they said, because you want to protect him, and he said, okay, but if I express that, it doesn't change anything, and at the end of the day, if he's fit, then getting him some games is good for us because he's missed a lot of football. We can't dictate to players whether they should go with their national teams or not. I never have, and that's been my view my whole career, and I won't stop now. It's an interesting angle, isn't it, on Romero? And another thing, let me know if you agree, Ange's angle that actually it could be beneficial for Tottenham for him to go away, play some minutes for Argentina, get some minutes into his legs, get him up to match fitness, rather than him just kind of holding up around the training ground and not getting any meaningful minutes into his legs. I think that's all well and good, assuming he doesn't go and get injured. And they do have a game, I believe, in the World Cup qualifying section against Brazil, which is obviously the hardest, most angst-filled game in South American football. The tackles will be flying in. Who will fly into tackles more than anyone else? Christian Romero. And if he goes out there and gets re-injured, I just think, I'm tempted to say there'll be riots, but the fan base will, I think, kind of Yori style, lose complete faith in Romero's ability to concentrate on Tottenham and what's important to the club that, let's face it, pay him every single week. Okay, Ange was then asked about Christian Romero's sidekick in the centre-backs, Mickey van der Ven. He said, he was asked, is van der Ven now fit? He said, fit, I don't know what that means, but he's training. We're mindful that the last time, whilst he came back and played half a game, we still felt, and he still felt like he just didn't feel right. So we've taken a different sort of road with him this time. He feels really good. He's been training with us for a good week and a half and is in a good space. I guess it's just about a timing thing now and how we reintroduce him. Will probably be gauged by how he feels in terms of what he does actually getting out there and having a runabout. But in terms of training and how he looks at training and how he feels very confident that once he's back in the team, he'll be all good. Listen, I'm as guilty of this as anyone. I'd almost forgotten that he played 45 minutes, didn't he, in the Europa League. Was it against Elfsborg? I think it was. And he looked incredible that game. He looked so comfortable. He was a cut above everybody else on the park, just bringing the ball down on his chest, playing it easy, opening it up. And then he came off and we were told that he felt good after that game. But then after that, we were then told something didn't feel right with him. And that's when Spurs decided to go down this different route with his recovery. So it is worrying, isn't it? There were also other reports that week, I remember, and the following weeks, that maybe he was going to be out for the whole season. And clearly that's not the case. But they are determined to go easy on him and let him kind of decide when he's going to play and how he's going to play and how he feels in terms of telling them how he feels. I think we've just got to hope that that maybe this extra rest after that Elfsborg game, it's been another month or two, hasn't it? Certainly another month. Hopefully that extra rest has really cleared things up for him. He's such an important player and he's so good. But the good news, I guess, is that we do have Big Kev Danso now who's really fitted in well. So we don't need to rush either Romero or Van der Ven back. And like I said earlier, I would be tempted for us to kind of see how this game starts. First half goes against AZ Alkmaar and bring players on dependent on what is needed. And that is the way I would feel about it. Okay, Big Ange was then asked about Bissouma. I didn't know this. I hadn't seen this report. But apparently Bissouma was at a ski resort earlier this week. And Ange was asked, so you gave him days off? And he said, Ange said, seriously, what sort of question is that? No, I didn't. We were training, but he decided to go skiing. Come on, mate, you're better than that. So I think Ange almost miscommunicated the question, as in, he thought he was being asked, was Bissouma given permission to go skiing on a day they were supposed to be training? So then a question was re-asked. He said, he was asked, what's your view on if he did go skiing? And Ange said this: I don't worry about those things, mate. They're adults, they're human beings. They had a couple of days off. They can choose to use that time as wisely as they can to help them be ready for what's in store for us. You kind of hope that they're sensible about these things and go about whatever they do in a manner that befits the position they hold, but I have no concerns and he's fine. Okay, so I hadn't seen these photos of Yves Bissouma at a skiing resort. It seems like, based on the question here, and let me know if I'm wrong in the comments, it seems like from the question he was seen at a ski resort rather than he was seen on skis. And I know this may seem a little petty, but the reason I bring that up is because I'm pretty sure that most football players, and I'd say all elite athletes, are basically banned within their contracts from going skiing or from riding motorbikes because it's seen as so dangerous, and obviously their health and specifically the fitness of their legs is deemed so important. So it strikes me that maybe Bissouma went and had a couple of days off, went away and went to a ski resort probably to live it up a little bit, but probably didn't go skiing. It seems unlikely he went skiing, but let me know in the comments. I could be completely wrong and you could tell me, oh no, there are photos and videos of him skiing down a ski slope, in which case, I think if that was the case, I think Ange Postecoglou is probably playing down his hand there, because I think he would have been fined a couple of weeks' wages at least and probably wouldn't play again for the club. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh, but the reality is that would be breach of contract, and there are plenty of reports already that Bissouma is on his way out of Spurs this summer, that Ange has lost patience with him on the pitch and potentially off the pitch as well, so I don't think that will have helped. Okay, Ange was next asked, this competition feels good for Spurs and has been in the past. Do you feel like it's there for you? And he said, I'm not sure what there for me is, but it's a competition we obviously want to do well in. We've got ourselves in a good position. We're in the round of 16. We've got 2 tough games against AZ, and that's the first thing to overcome. You're right, the club hasn't in recent years done well in this competition, but it's a major European competition. We're in the last 16, and for us there's an opportunity there, and we'll see how far we can go in it. Yep, completely agree with Ange here. I think the key here is for Tottenham that for the first time in the Europa League and what was previously the UEFA Cup in the last kind of 20 years, certainly since Spurs' resurgence, which for me started under Martin Jol in the early noughties, every time previously that we've been in the UEFA Cup or Europa League, we've also been looking to get in the top 4. We've been in and around that top 4, 4th, 5th, 6th, and obviously the narrative in the press and around the club is, can they get in the top 4 to get into the Champions League? So it's been hard for Spurs to concentrate enough and put all their eggs in the basket of the Europa League. This is the first time where almost there's no excuse. We have to put all our eggs in that basket. It's our only way to get into the Champions League. And we should, I'm afraid to say it, be resting players in the games in between the Europa League games to make sure we've got our first team properly fit and raring to go for these Europa League games. That is the way I look at it. It's the first time we've been able to do it, and I want to see us doing that. And as a result, I think it should give us our best chance. However, as we've seen all season this year, we've not been at our best against teams who play defensive, sturdy football with 11 men behind the ball. I expect AZ Alkmaar to do that. I listened on The View from the Lane, the brilliant podcast with Danny Kelly and Jack Pitt-Brooke and Charlie Eccleshare and James Moore. Yesterday, they interviewed an AZ Alkmaar fan who's a journalist as well. And he said, look, they've only lost 3 times since the beginning of December. They are a hard team to beat. They play a physical defensive style. And Tottenham have struggled against that. So it's not going to be easy. And I think we need to take this game incredibly seriously, both in terms of the squad, but as a fan base as well. And tonight's first leg will be important. I think it'll be tighter than maybe many expect. Don't forget, we only beat them 1-0 at home in the group stage. So this will not be easy, and we've got to get through it to then get to the bigger games where potentially we'll play teams who are more likely to come at us a bit more. The likes of Ajax or Eintracht Frankfurt in the next game, and then potentially, although they've got to get through their games, Lazio in the semi-finals. Ange was asked, would you say you've got more belief in the squad now to go all the way in the competition than you had at the start of the season? He said this, it's hard to say. We obviously started the season feeling pretty good about where we were at, but obviously it hasn't transpired that way. You just don't know. Certainly a combination of things. Players, significant players coming back for us, but also just having the opportunity to train with the whole group has been really valuable. I think the time off and players coming in, having their time off and scheduling things better means we're in a good place, certainly to tackle things ahead. So certainly from that perspective, yes. Probably a month back, we were really struggling with no players and no recovery time. So from our perspective, the past few weeks have been really good for training, recovery, and just the level of intensity we can put into preparing for games. Yeah, I'm really hopeful that we can just see in these games a motivation which comes from knowing exactly what we have to do to make this a good season, and then also a motivation on the pitch that comes from knowing within these players' bodies that they are fit and they are raring to go and they have the energy to make something happen. Ange was then asked, there's going to be a lot of focus on Mickey and Christian, and when you put them back in, there's not a lower tempo game for you to put them back in for. This is going back to Van de Ven and Romero, of course. He says, I never think about it that way. I don't know what lower tempo games are. Every game, players know they have to come in and perform. It's more just making sure they're ready. For us, I've always felt our training is a really good preparation for the way that we play. The best preparation for the way we play, and the fact Romero, Dom and Mickey have been able to train with us at the usual intensity we train at, rather than what it had been, is a good indicator for me about whether they'll be able to cope. He was then asked, do you sense a real hunger in the squad to prove people wrong and finish the season well? He said, yeah, I think it's fair to say the boys really understand there's a great opportunity for us. I think they've appreciated the fact that the guys who've been playing through are now able to recover and train and prepare themselves better for games. That has coincided with seeing their teammates come back, and certainly the guys that have been out injured, we've already seen with guys like Vic, Brennan, Madders to a lesser extent due to timeout, but Wilson, Odebear, Destiny Udogie too, they've come back with a real hunger and desire to help the team, because I think they've all been frustrated to sit on the sidelines and see how difficult it was for the group of players who have been playing. Andrew was then asked, is it important to silence the home crowd early in this game? He said, yes, it'll be a tough challenge. They did really well last time. Talking about against Galatasaray. He says, we obviously played Gala away and they're a very good side, especially in European football, but the key for that tie was how Alkmaar played at home. They set it up, and with us tomorrow night, we've got to make sure whatever happens at the end of the game, we've still got an opportunity to go back to Tottenham and win the tie. We understand with the home support, I've been here with Celtic in a Europa game, so I know the experience of it, and they're a good side, but we've got to make sure we play our football and dictate the tempo of the game to make sure we take a result back to Tottenham. That's important to remember, actually, and something that's easy to forget. They beat Galatasaray at home 4-1. So if you don't go about it with the right mindset, if you go in there complacent that you're going to beat this team easily, you will get turned over. Also, both Dutch teams in the Champions League got turned over easily this week, Feyenoord and PSV. PSV by them lot down in South London. So the Dutch team will want to prove that Holland is not an easy walkover in knockout situations. In terms of how I feel it'll go, I said yesterday my prediction was 1-1. I'm going to stick to that for now. I don't think that would be an appalling result to take back to Tottenham Hotspur. Obviously, there are no away goals in European competition anymore, so that's one thing kind of taken out of the situation. But yeah, like Ange says, just don't do anything stupid. Take control of the game. Don't be complacent. Don't let them hit us on the break too much, and let a game get away from you the same way that Galatasaray did. And of course, just most importantly, no injuries. Please, no injuries. Okay, Kevin Danso also did his pre-match press conference. He was asked about how do you find the competition for places now that Romero and Van de Ven are back. He said, we all know what they've achieved at Tottenham so far and how good they are. I'm looking forward to that challenge. I'm going to push them. They're going to push me, and I think a season is very long. There are many competitions, lots of games, so it's about keeping each other on the highest level possible to compete in every competition we're in. He was also asked, he was asked, you seem to take a lot of hits, get up and limp a bit before getting on with it in games. Is that fair to say? He said, I like to think of myself as a bit of a warrior, just trying to get my body in front of shots, block shots, be an aggressive defender who's always trying to get in the way of stuff, stop the opposition from scoring, and getting whacks is part and parcel of that. But like you said, I just get up, limp a bit and continue. Listen, I've been very impressed with Kevin Danso. I think he should start tonight. There's some rumours that maybe Romero might start, and maybe Danso alongside Romero wouldn't be a bad little physical partnership back there. Let's see what happens. If it is Danso and Archie Gray, I wouldn't be too devastated with that. I would put Kevin Danso on Troy Parrott, of course, used to play for Spurs and is the number 9 for AZ Alkmaar. He's done really well. I think he scored 17 goals all competitions this season. Very good return for him. And he is getting eyed up by bigger clubs around Europe. But I think when it comes to it, Mickey van der Ven and Christian Romero will be the number 1 choices when they're properly fit. But Danso, a really good option to come in, and I like him. He's level-headed. Really, really impressed with him. He was then asked, players always speak about the Ange Postecoglou chat that helped them sign for the club. What was yours like? He said, it didn't take much for me, to be honest, but it was really short and sweet. He just quickly gave me an insight about the idea of how he wants to play. It was very brief, and he just told me the idea of what his team stands for. After that, I was 100% sure. And then Kev was asked, do you sense a hunger in the squad to win this trophy? He said 100%, and I think it's possible. Good lad. I said before the United game, with the week of training that we had with some of the injured lads coming back, it was a lot of positive energy around the place, and we ended up winning that game and keeping a clean sheet. It's the same feeling now with Mickey and Cutie back in the squad, and everybody is wanting to finish the season strong. We know what a great team we have, so now it's down to us to prove it in every training session and game and try to make an impact. Like I said, Big Kev Danso, really good addition. And I think, again, just shows you don't have to spend £60 million every single time. There are little gems around who you can get for kind of 20, 25 million pounds, and Danso has exactly the right attitude. He's come in a bit older than the kind of usual players we've been signing recently. I think he's like 26, 27 years old, so he's got experience, and that's important in the back line. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. I like Radu Dragusin, great box defender, but in terms of bringing qualities that suit what Ange wants to do in our squad, I think Danso has usurped him and is probably now our third choice centre-back. Okay, guys, let me know your predictions for tonight's game in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please do give this video a like. If you like daily Tottenham Hotspur news and transfer talk, please do press subscribe. Bring it to you mostly always live every afternoon at 12:30, but wanted to get this one out early because, of course, it's a 5:30 kickoff tonight for AZ Alkmaar against Tottenham in the Europa League. And also, guys, please do keep watching those stand-up comedy clips. I post a YouTube short every single day. And if you are on Instagram or TikTok, please do come over and follow me there at Barnaby Slater Comedy. Really appreciate your support, guys. And most importantly, of course, come on, you Spurs.